it's Gareth Cable from Empire Wealth. I hope you're well. I get a lot of people asking me what they need to do before they leave the UK. So I've created this guide and I hope you like it. In our Leaving the UK guide, we're going to go through some important information about things you need to do before you leave the UK and some things to think about. So if you've been living and working in the UK, we're going to go through in this particular video what you need to complete in terms of forms and who you need to contact before leaving the UK. Now, this information is subject to change, so we strongly encourage you to subscribe and hit the notification tab for any updates. It's also important that you understand that this information is based on my understanding of the UK tax laws and rules as at November 2021. It's general in nature and might not be appropriate for you given your specific circumstances. Okay, so first let's tackle notifying HMRC around your income tax. So if you've been employed and haven't been doing a self-assessment tax return, then you'll need to let HMRC know that you're leaving by filling in what's called a P85 form. Now, after you've filled it in, you will need to send parts 2 and 3 of the P45 form, which your employer should have given you. So the P85 will be in the comments below, but the P45 is only available from your employer. And by filling that in, it'll make sure that you don't pay more UK tax than what is necessary once you've left. Also, depending on your circumstances, you might end up getting a tax refund, which would be nice. If you haven't been in the UK for very long, HMRC may send you what's called an R43 form to process your refund. Now, don't be concerned. It is just a form that, as I mentioned, is just if you haven't been here for a long time, but they will require that before they process your refund. Now, the other thing to be mindful of is that you'll probably find some companies out there that are tax refund specialists. Now, these companies will do this same process for you by lodging the P85, but usually their fees are quite expensive. Now, in most cases, you would get the same amount back if you went through them or you did it yourself, but you'd obviously have to pay their charges. So be very careful before you sign up to one of them prior to going back. Now, the process is a bit different for those people who actually do complete a self-assessment tax return or are self-employed. So in your particular case, you will just complete a tax return as you would normally. Once you've got all the information, you just lodge it in that particular tax year. You don't usually complete a P85 form. That's right, you don't complete a P85 form. And if you're entitled to get a refund, then it will come through as part of the usual tax return process. Now, if you don't have any plans to return to the UK, you should enter the date that you left the UK on the self-assessment form. This way, HMRC can close your self-assessment record, if appropriate, and stop sending you tax returns to complete. If you have been self-employed, again, you should make sure you write down the date that you stopped your UK self-employment in your tax return. Now, you might need to keep your self-assessment record open. So if, for example, you're planning to return to the UK in the near future, or you will continue to have UK sourced income after you have left or will remain a UK tax resident. So for people who might have potentially an investment property or something along those lines, or as they like to refer to it here, a buy-to-let property. Now, this can be quite a complex area and beyond the scope of this video. So if you're in any doubt, seek the guidance of a tax professional. It's always worthwhile making sure that you get it right rather than coming up and finding that you've got a penalty later. Now, from a council tax perspective, this is quite straightforward. You need to contact your council with the dates you intend to move out, give them your forwarding address, and then if you've paid in advance, you should receive a refund, and it will be paid to your nominated bank account. Now, moving on to bank accounts, which is an interesting one. If you're keeping your UK bank account open, you might end up getting taxed twice on your interests. So it would be worthwhile completing another HMRC form called the R105. Now, the R105, or the Authorised Investment Funds Interest Distribution form. Look, once you've filled it in, you need to post it or drop it off to a branch. And if you have multiple banks, you need to get an R105 form for each of those banks and drop them off to each of them. You can't use the one form for all of them. So that's really important. A lot of people forget to do that. Now, again, going back to those people that have got rental properties, there's a form that's referred to as the non-resident landlord form that might be relevant to you. Now, there's a few variations on that form, and I'm assuming you've done all of your considerations around capital gains tax, etc., if it was your main property and now it's going to be rented out. But if you're keeping the property, you should really consider if the non-resident landlords form is something that you need to lodge to make sure that you're paying the right amount of tax. It's also worth mentioning that expat landlord insurance is something that you need to keep in mind, because certain insurers will not cover you whilst others will, and you want to make sure that you've got the appropriate policy. In terms of student loans, if for whatever reason you've undertaken studies in the UK and are subject to student loans, you need to make sure that you get in touch so that you are making the correct repayments. State pensions. Now, if you're receiving a state pension, you need to be aware that you have to get in contact with the International Pension Centre. Now, this only can be done either via post or phone call in terms of changing your address. They will not accept an online form that is on their website. So you need to do that via post or phone call. And you need to be aware that by making a change, such as moving countries or moving abroad, that can actually have an impact on how much you receive. Moving on, in terms of national insurance, the compulsory and voluntary contributions, well, that's going to be in another upcoming video, just because it is such a complex area. Depending on the country you're moving to, depending on your employer, we'll be covering that off in future videos. So that brings us to the end of the first part of our Leaving the UK series. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for coming along. As mentioned, there'll be more parts over the coming weeks, so you will know what you need to do before you leave the UK and some things you need to think about. I hope you enjoyed the video, and to see more like it, you need to hit that subscribe button, and please leave me any comments about what you did or didn't like. I'd love to hear from you. All the best, and I'll see you soon.